The League of Nations had already failed to prevent aggressions in 1930s due to its lack of power and enforcement. And the world was looking to prevent any catastrophic event after the World War II. They were looking for an international body that has more power and effectiveness. In 1941, Franklin D. Roosevelt, along with Winston Churchill, signed the historic Atlantic Charter. It outlined the shared goal of peace, self-determination, and post-war recovery. It followed by a number of conferences, and finally in 1945, UNO, the United Nations Organization, came into being. Among its core principles, one such principle is the equality of all member states, regardless of their size, their wealth, and power. But stop here. Since the beginning, something is wrong with this principle, and that is the structure of UNO itself. UNO has many bodies such as International Court of Justice, the General Assembly, Security Council, Social and Economic Council, and many more. As of now, the General Assembly has 193 member states, and each member state has one vote, regardless of their size and power. Okay, that's good. Everyone is being considered equal. Where is the problem? The problem is in the structure of Security Council. The Security Council has 15 members. Out of these, 10 members are elected and have tenure of 2 years. Now comes the 5 permanent members, and this is the thing that has become bone of contentions between many member states during the course of time. But why? And with this question begins the contradictions. These 5 nations are Russia, China, United States, United Kingdom, and France. These members are permanent and irreplaceable. These members have special privileges that can affect the whole functioning of the United Nations. And one such privilege is the famous or infamous the veto power. The word veto comes from Latin, meaning I forbid. It refers to the power to unilaterally stop or reject any resolution or decision even if the majority supports it. Having veto power, even one permanent member can block any resolution to be taken by United Nations, even if the majority of member states, including 4 permanent members, support it. It means even one permanent member can reject the world view. Isn't it insane? Is there any democratic justification for this practice? Isn't it unjust for other member states? We will try to explore it. To understand this, we will have to first explore why the League of Nations failed. Many people argue that the absence of key powers was the biggest failure. USA was not a member, Germany and Russia left it on initial stages, and this thing weakened its global legitimacy. Another fault was every decision required unanimous consent from all the member states. And getting unanimous consent in this world where everyone has their vested interest is a next to impossible thing. This was the major reason for its failure. For example, when Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931, the League condemned it, but the Japan simply vetoed it and withdrew from the League. Now consider United Nations again. When we look at the list of these 5 permanent members, they all were indeed the major Allied powers that emerged victorious in World War II. Axis powers had already devastated, and these Allied powers were considered crucial for post-war recovery and peace. And one more thing, I hope you understand the psychology of a winner. How could a winner lead the post-war organization without its influence? You can understand this thing from a quote by Francis O. Wilcox, who served as an advisor to US delegation in San Francisco Conference in 1945, where the United Nations Charter was drafted. He said that at San Francisco, the issue was made crystal clear by the leaders of Big Five. It was either the Charter with the veto or no charter at all. A US delegate even tore up a copy of charter stating that without veto there would be no charter at all. From this, it's clear that granting veto power was the only way to ensure their participation in the United Nations. And without these big powers, United Nations would have been a group of small struggling states without any political say. So without veto powers, there would be no United Nations. During the course of time, all these permanent members have used their veto powers for their vested interest. In 2022, Russia vetoed a resolution condemning its invasion on Ukraine. Similarly, in 2023, US has vetoed many resolutions demanding ceasefire in Gaza, despite overwhelming support from other member states. Amnesty International claimed that the 5 permanent members had used their veto to promote political self-interest and geopolitical interest above the interest of protecting civilians. The enormous influence of veto power has been cited as the cause of ineffectiveness of UNO in preventing many human rights crises, violences, and genocides. Now someone would say that we should abolish the veto power and all the member states should have equal say. Is this possible? Technically, yes. If two-thirds of the member states, or let's say if more than 129 members of 193 vote in favor of this change. But there is a catch. These members should also include all the permanent 5 members. If any of these permanent 5 members refrain to vote, there would be no resolution. So in simple words, veto power also applicable on resolution demanding end of veto. So, citing the stance of permanent members, abolishing the veto power is next to impossible. Balancing power in the Security Council is one of the most debated, complex, and sensitive issue in the global governance. Many scholars have proposed different solutions to this problem. One such solution is provision to override the veto. If 90% of the member states are agreed on a matter, there shall be no veto over that matter. Another solution is restricting veto power in case of war crimes, humanity crisis, and genocides. Moreover, there should be some regional seats from Africa and Latin America. But again, the paradox is all these changes are subject to veto. My point here is to provoke some thoughts how veto power works and how the permanent members having veto power can influence the global governance. See you in the next video. Bye bye.